So, Devon, as a producer, what made you say, after reading this book, this has to be turned into a film and it has to happen right now?
Yeah, I'm always on the lookout for, okay, what's the next big thing? What's the thing that I feel like I'm called to do? Also in the faith space, just always try to keep tabs on, what's bubbling up. And so the
Mhm.
relationship goals message had already, gone viral. And Pastor Todd and I met, I think it was at Facebook, like it
Yeah,
was
Mhm.
maybe there was some faith event in Facebook. I don't remember
yeah.
what it was, but we met and we got connected. And then when the book came out during the pandemic, I was like, wow, if people are resonating this much, and I thought about like, well, what happened with Think Like a Man? I was like, well, that was great. And that movie was very successful based upon the book. And I thought, Pastor Mike, this is the closest thing to that since then. And that was years ago. And so I just felt like there was enough, the principles that he created would, I think, make for a great film. And so I hit him up, and, during the pandemic, and said, hey man, have you ever thought about making this a movie? And to my surprise, he said God had already told him it was going to be a movie. And he sent me like a 1 or 2 pager of different ideas and characters. And so I took that and paired it with some writers, and we started putting it together, sold it to Amazon, and have been developing it ever since.
Now, how did you tap Kelly Rowland and Method Man?
Well, I had been developing the script, and every movie, honestly, is only as good as the cast
Mhm.
that you have in front of the camera. And for me, when Pastor Mike and I spoke originally, he was like, "Yo, I want this to be a movie for the mainstream."
Mhm.
Now he's like, "Hey, it's cool that it has Christian principles, but this needs to be a movie for everybody." And so when I was putting the movie together, I had lunch with Kelly while I was developing the script.
Mm.
And in that lunch, I was like, wait a minute, she might be dope for relationship goals. So once I had the script and it was in the right shape, I sent it to her and she read it in 24 hours and said, I'm
Mhm.
in. And then we began the process of figuring out who was going to star opposite her. We tested a lot of different guys, and it was Amber Raspberry at Amazon that said,
Mm.
you know what? What about Method Man? And I was like, Method Man? Well, yeah. I mean, he and I, we met years and years ago. So he came in, did a chemistry with Kelly, and it was just magic. And so that was the process of putting it together. And what Pastor Mike said earlier, which I didn't even realize, a lot of the names of the characters are based upon what he originally had said. And I forgot about that. So it's just amazing how
Crazy.
it all works out.
So, okay, now I have to know, how did you, were there challenges in translating this into a romantic comedy, but yet still keeping the heart of the message, where it's not so preachy, but keeping it powerful, fun, and entertaining? Was there any challenges trying to do all that and keeping the message?
Yes, I mean, I want to be very clear, right? Like I might make it look real easy, but when you
He's a
take a
professional, Lady Charmaine, a professional.
listen, the principles that God gave, Pastor Mike to put in the book are phenomenal. Yet you still got to figure out, okay, how do you take a book that's not a narrative and build a story around it?
Mhm.
And that just took a lot of time. I hired Mike Elliott and Corey Tynan, his writing partner. Mike Elliott's behind, Like Mike and Brown Sugar and Ruth and Boaz. And so we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what the concept was. We went through multiple drafts. We tried a bunch of different things, and then ultimately got it to a place where we needed a female voice. So I brought in a writer named Laura Lekos, who came in and
Mm.
rewrote it and got us to green light. But it was hard because
Right.
it's like you want to take these principles and you want to honor them. And my thing was like, God gave this to Pastor Mike. So I'm just trying to be a good steward over what God gave him. And then part of that stewardship is like, let's make sure that the icons and the pillars of the book are represented in the film. So
Mm.
fixing your aim and tearing up your list, those are things that are really, really pillars of the message. And we wanted to make sure that the film, incorporated that. So it wasn't easy, but we were always clear if we're not honoring the book, then we're not really on the right path. And that was always a guiding, light, so to speak, to keep us going in the right direction.
That's amazing. And I want to remind the audience to be sure to tune in on February the 4th to Amazon Prime to Relationship Goals. And Devon, it's
Okay.
always a pleasure having you on the show. You know, I love you and I appreciate
Love
you.
you back. Always good seeing you. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.